On this edition of Sightings, in 1964, an Air Force unit photographing nuclear missile tests saw something go terribly wrong.
Something flew into the frame. What I saw was a classic flying saucer.
Now, exclusive footage of what the Air Force has tried to suppress. Then, Carol Everett's psychic vision has been scientifically tested and proven.
Why you?
Why not?
Carla Wohl has her incredible story. Later, he is one of Mexico's most respected journalists and its most zealous UFO experiencer.
I like to be there if they come down with a camera to document it.
It's called Route 666, and it may be the most deadly road in America. And a new witness comes forward in one of our military's most famous UFO confrontations.
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. Officially, the United States government will neither confirm nor deny the existence of UFOs. But unofficially, a stream of retired military personnel are now coming forward with critical information about unidentified craft they encountered in the line of duty. Among them, Robert Jacobs, a former Air Force cameraman, who believes that there is film out there somewhere that proves that the government knows more than they are willing to tell.
We've just come out of the most destructive war on the face of the planet, World War II, 50 million dead. We had just barely gotten beyond that, and suddenly, according to documents, there were mysterious objects maneuvering in American airspace.
UFO researcher and lecturer Robert Hastings has spent 22 years studying the United States' interest in and reaction to reports of UFOs. Hastings has concluded that not only is the government fooling the American public, they've been fooling themselves.
I think it's not a coincidence that the phenomenon has accelerated its activity precisely at a time in human history when we've acquired nuclear weapons. I have interviewed 21 former and retired Air Force personnel associated with nuclear missile squadrons who have referred to incidents involving the presence of flying saucers.
That theory is based in part on the personal experiences of Robert Jacobs, a former Air Force lieutenant. In 1964, Lieutenant Jacobs claims he sat in a room at Vandenberg Air Force Base and saw a UFO that haunts him to this day.
Hair's going up on the back of my neck right now thinking about it, just remembering that day. I saw something that was so strange that it changed my life. It changed the way I believe about the universe and my place in it and our place in it.
In 1964, Lieutenant Robert Jacobs was stationed at Vandenberg Air Force Base, California. He was in charge of a special photographic unit filming test flights of Atlas F and Minuteman missiles, both nuclear weapon delivery systems.
When you launch a piece of equipment that costs $4 or $5 million just for the piece of equipment and it blows up 300 yards out of the hole, we want to know, first of all, why did it blow up? So my job was to provide photographic documentation from 30 or 40 different camera positions for each launch.
In November of 1964, Jacobs was assigned to film a Vandenberg missile launch using a brand new state-of-the-art telescope developed at Boston University. It was the most powerful lens the Air Force had ever used.
The biggest lens we had on our M45s was 180 inches. This telescope had an effective focal length of 1,200 inches, so you can see that it's enormously bigger. It was so big, in fact, that when the missile left Vandenberg with the Boston University telescope, in one single frame, just the bottom 3 engines on an Atlas F filled the frame. That was from a distance of about 130 nautical miles.
In a top-secret mission, the telescope was flown in from Boston aboard a Hercules aircraft. This is actual footage shot by Jacobs' unit and only recently rediscovered in his archive. The telescope was so large, it had to be hauled to its site in an 18-wheel big rig. Jacobs' crew assisted the telescope's inventor,
Walter Manning, with the installation of the lens. The camera was perched on a bluff in Big Sur, 130 miles from the launch site.
We walked onto the missile and we saw all 3 stages of powered flight. Through our binoculars, we could see that happen.
It was a test of a top-secret anti-missile missile, one designed to confuse enemy missiles and then go on to hit its target. The camera was programmed to follow the missile automatically and run for 6 minutes, long past the point where the missile was visible.
Now, what we didn't know is what else we had got besides the missile.
After the film was developed, project director Major Florenz Mansman called Jacobs into his office, and Major Mansman was not alone.
There were 2 guys in gray suits in there, civilian clothes. They were not in the Air Force. They were from somewhere else. They never identified themselves. They could have been CIA, OSI, OSS.
Jacobs was asked to watch his test film in the presence of these mysterious officials.
The nose cone spread out. The warhead was quite plainly visible. Something flew into the frame. What I saw was a circular object. It was a classic flying saucer. And it shot a beam of something at our warhead. You have to imagine this thing is flying along at several thousand miles an hour. This stuff is flying along, and something comes into the frame and chasing it, and comes in like this and fires at it, and goes around like this and fires at it, and goes around like this and fires at it, and fires at it like this, and then goes back out that way. What the hell could do that?
That was exactly what Major Mansman wanted to know.
And he said, "What was that?" And I said, "It looks to me like we got a UFO." And he said, "You are never to say that again. As far as you're concerned, Lieutenant Jacobs, this never happened." And I was sworn to silence, reminded of the severity of a security breach, and told to leave the room. 18 years went by with that image in my mind.
After 18 years of silence, Jacobs felt compelled to go public. When he did, the official Air Force response was astonishing.
The Air Force denied that I was ever there. There was no Lieutenant Robert M. Jacobs in the Air Force at that time. I was never at Vandenberg Air Force Base. If I was at Vandenberg Air Force Base, I was never in charge of the photo-optical instrumentation section at the 1369th Photographic Squadron, right here at this base. They denied then that there was a tracking site at Big Sur. They denied that there was a telescope called the BU telescope. They denied that there was a Dr. Walter Manning. They denied everything.
However, Sightings has obtained documents that prove he was in the Air Force in 1964 and that he was in charge of the photo-optical instrumentation site at Big Sur. In a letter to Sightings, Florenz Mansman, Lieutenant Jacobs' direct superior and the man present when the infamous UFO footage was screened, says, quote, "I am writing to confirm Dr. Jacobs' account as he had described it." But by far, the most compelling evidence is this film, which proves the existence of an event the Air Force continues to deny.
The Air Force is probably not going to like this film, but there's nothing they can do about it. It exists, it documents the telescope, the people who were there, including me. And if there are any ramifications about it, I guess I just don't care anymore.
Recent disclosures from the former Soviet Union indicate that UFO overflights of military bases and nuclear facilities have not been limited to the United States. During the 1970s and 80s, several UFOs were sighted at government installations in Russia and Siberia.
Next, a healer's powerful psychic vision. Later, with Bigfoot a protected species, this man's land is worthless, and a new universe is born.
James Randi, the founder of PsyCop, the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, has a standing offer of $10,000 to anyone who can prove their psychic ability. But psychics like Carol Everett of Crediton, England, laugh at the suggestion that their powers of ESP can be proven through traditional scientific methods. As correspondent Carla Wohl learned on a recent trip to England, Carol Everett's psychic gift defies all conventional explanations.
When I first started having experiences that I now realise now were unusual, I was about 7. I sort of used to have this strange sensation, and then I'd feel like I was going down this tunnel. And at the bottom of the tunnel, there was always, you know, a light, really, really bright. And there was all these faces, and they were all friendly, you know, and they were really a nice feeling.
You stand still, here, come on.
In so many ways, Carol Everett typifies the earthy English country gentlewoman, but her psychic gift will forever set her apart.
Why do you think you have this ability? Why you?
Why not? Do you know, I mean, I long ago got rid of my ego because your abilities and the information that you get is only as good as what you receive. It's nothing to do with you. And when you realise that, and you realise that it can go, it keeps you down. You know, it keeps your feet on the ground.
With her feet on the ground and her head in the clouds, Carol has developed a sterling reputation as a psychic detective, helping to solve several difficult cases. But it's her work as a psychic diagnostician and healer that's earned Carol international celebrity.
I've always said that when I work, I cut off the left-hand side of my brain, my thinking brain. I can't do it if I think.
You say you shut off half of your brain. How do you do that?
I slow down my breathing, slow everything down, and then the pictures come. It's like watching the telly.
Every day, Carol receives clients in her home office, charging 15 to 20 pounds per half-hour session. She specializes in life readings and psychic healing, especially the healing of growths and tumors.
I don't think I'll bother with this side, with the right-hand side. I did that last time, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think I'll go to this side, all right? See what, see if anything comes up different there.
What does it feel like when Carol is she was trying to heal one of your ovaries today? What does that feel like to you?
Sometimes it's very, very cold, but other times I've had it when it's hot. Only once, it was really so bad. It was like someone pricking me with a knife.
And is there any feeling tomorrow? Do you know you've been here the following day?
Be very tender in the area.
Sometimes when Carol performs a healing, she takes on her client's pain.
In fact, I was getting a little bit worried about it at one time because I thought I might decombust one day, taking on all these, you know, like conditions. Sometimes it's like as if they say, oh, you know, it's going now. And I think, yeah, and I know where it's going. And, you know, and they think, oh, I feel a lot better now. And then I maybe have that pain for a couple of days.
Unlike many other self-proclaimed healers, Carol Everett willingly submitted to a scientific evaluation at Tokyo Denki University in 1994. Professor Yoshio Machi has performed clinical testing of psi phenomena for more than 20 years.
First, she said she would know what was wrong with the patient at a glance. We wanted to know if she could treat the patient, and she said okay.
They put this, what looked like a hairnet on my head and wired it all up. They had all these loads and loads of machines with my brain, picture of my brain on the screen. They were measuring, you know, how the brain changed. And there was no activity in the left-hand side of the brain.
This is an alpha wave, and this is a beta wave. These were examined when she was diagnosing. At this moment, Carol's right brain became very active. She knew what was wrong instantly.
Without Carol present, the same advanced thermograph technique were used to document the presence of a tumor in a young woman. When Carol met the woman, she psychically found the same tumor.
She pointed out the same part where we found something was wrong by using our equipment. The experiment was successful.
Then, in the presence of a documentary film crew, Carol astonished the skeptical university panel by making the woman's tumor disappear before their eyes.
Can I show you the picture from the time of the treatment? As she proceeded with the treatment, the color got thinner. Now you can see almost no color. This part was always the same, but this part changed a lot. We don't know why this happens, but it is clear the temperature of this part went down by means of healing. Because we have seen many healers, we can tell pretty much about the ability of the healer by means of scientific data. We don't have an exact measurement, but I know her ability is on a very high level.
To have it scientifically tested and see exactly all the things that you felt and the way that you've, changed yourself, really, I felt quite, pleased with it. And not only that, if I hadn't have been successful in there, I wouldn't have done it anymore anyway.
Not only has Carol been successful diagnosing illnesses, she's also found problems doctors have missed, as was the case for Miss Britain contender Jay Hirams.
What warning did she give you about your health?
Well, I had a reading from her, and she'd warned me during the course of it, just suddenly came out that I might get a pain in my groin, and that if I did, she was very agitated about it, and she said I must go and get medical treatment immediately.
And did it happen?
Yeah, it sure did.
What happened?
I started getting this niggling pain exactly where she had said I would get it.
Right.
And it gradually got worse and worse. By that evening, I was bent over double on the floor and I just couldn't move.
Doctors prescribed painkillers and bed rest, but Jay took Carol's warning seriously and pushed for further testing. She barely survived after doctors discovered a life-threatening ectopic pregnancy.
You said you have been to other people, other psychics. How does she compare to the other psychics?
I think it's probably like comparing a Mini with a Rolls Royce.
At his wife's insistence, chronic pain sufferer Ken Wilkinson reluctantly consulted Carol.
Now, you're by nature a fairly skeptical person.
Very skeptical. But when I got there and sat in front of her, she started to pick up the pains I was suffering from.
Carol not only diagnosed a drug allergy that doctors had missed, Ken also believes that she psychically healed his painfully twisted esophagus.
It's almost impossible to explain. You must just accept the fact that she has some miraculous gift of healing.
Do you ever feel almost like God? I mean, because you're telling people about their futures and about their lives.
I don't think anyone should sort of like say that or play God or anything, and I always make it quite clear that I'm not a fortune teller. And all I do with people is say, if you go that way, that'll happen. If you go that way, that'll happen. But it's down to you. So no, I don't think of myself as playing God or anything, because I put the responsibility back with that person.
Carol Everett stresses that her psychic diagnoses are performed with the complete cooperation and support of her patient's regular physician. Psychic treatments are not a substitute for traditional medicine.
Next, exclusive never-before-seen footage of the Socorro, New Mexico UFO landing site and how this man was beaten by Bigfoot.
Here are some of the stories Sightings is following in the news. While there is no official government position on the existence or non-existence of Bigfoot, Sightings has discovered at least one government document in which Sasquatch is not only acknowledged, he's deemed worthy of special attention as one of this country's endangered species. In Maple Valley, Washington, the owner of this ranch is being prevented from developing his suburban Seattle property because, according to an official King County document, one man's ranch is another man's Bigfoot breeding ground. And landowner Jim Baum is not very happy about it.
Yeah, I'm madder than hell. I mean, basically the county has taken away my one and only asset, and they're telling me that I made a bad investment.
Baum bought this ranch in 1988 and had big dreams for the neglected property.
Oh, I was looking for a piece of property that I could either turn into a horse boarding facility or actually farm. And I checked with the county to see if I could rehab the farm and turn it back into an active farm.
Jim Baum's land use application was denied because King County had designated the property as a Class II wetland, home to many protected plant and animal species.
They handed me a single piece of paper And on the back of this piece of paper, there was lists of the birds, mammals, and plants that are supposedly in this wetland.
Among the protected mammals were bear, beaver, and Bigfoot.
There's like 350 different species on this list, and I came across a Bipedus giganticus, which I'd never heard of before. When I saw that it was a Sasquatch, I was fairly amazed.
While Baum may be amazed, he is definitely not amused.
I'm angry about this whole thing because I cannot do what I wanted to do with this property, even though I checked it out before I bought it, and the county has the audacity to list Sasquatch as a protected species.
According to the county's Agriculture and Resource Department, the list was compiled from a variety of sources, including citizen observations, and the department doesn't make a judgment about whether sightings are real or imagined. Socorro, New Mexico is the site of one of the most baffling UFO encounters in U.S. history. On April 24, 1964, an unidentified craft reportedly landed and then ascended into the New Mexico twilight. On a recent episode of Sightings, we brought you the first-hand account of Sheriff's Deputy Lonnie Zamora, who witnessed the egg-shaped craft.
Those are the exact bushes that were there, and the craft was sitting right in between them two. So I started down to see what it was, and then I heard this big boom in the bottom, and the fire came out of the bottom. So I started running behind my police car to take cover. And then it gradually pulled up about 20, 30 feet and stayed there for a while and then just took off.
Almost instantly, Socorro was the center of intense media interest. But except for the few frames of footage seen here, all film and photographs taken by news agencies and curious onlookers was reportedly confiscated by the government. But Sightings was recently contacted by a Southern California woman whose family home movies had somehow eluded the authorities.
Well, I was sitting home one night and the program Sightings came on, and there was a story about Socorro, New Mexico. And I sat up, I went, oh my God, I cannot believe it. I was there. I have home movies of this.
In April 1964, the family was on vacation in New Mexico. This rare home movie, recorded at the scene of Zamora's sighting, shows the aftermath of the UFO landing and takeoff.
As I recall, we stopped at a gas station, and I remember we spoke to a sheriff, and he told us that he had been in the desert and he saw a UFO landing. My father was really amazed about this and really interested. So we followed the sheriff out to the location where this occurred.
The scene of the UFO encounter was just as Lonnie Zamora has always described it.
I got out of the car and I walked, and you could see very clearly where it looked like a tripod had burned into the ground, or something, a craft had landed. And you could see the landing marks very clearly on the ground. Then there was a bush that was all charred and burned.
Though short in duration, this film footage is significant because it not only validates Deputy Zamora's story, but also provides important documentation for ufologists who continue to study the Socorro case.
We were kind of quiet when we got back in the car, and I said, wow, Dad, that was amazing. It affected both of us. It was a remarkable thing to see, and we both believed what the sheriff told us. There was no question about it.
In Baltimore, Maryland, astronomers at the Space Telescope Science Institute were among the first to see new images from the Hubble telescope. Pictures of more than 40 billion new galaxies of every size, shape, and color. It's cause for celebration, bringing us one step closer to unlocking the secrets of our universe.
We've just seen the Hubble Deep Field images, which were, for the first time, all added together. So we really see the full depth that we're looking at, as deep as these images go. And it was absolutely spectacular. And what we're seeing is that there are some galaxies in this image which must be incredibly distant, well beyond 8 billion light years away. I think we've seen the era of galaxy formation with a clarity that no one has seen before.
Focusing on one tiny fraction of the sky, just above the Big Dipper, the Hubble Space Telescope has taken a series of progressive pictures, each penetrating deeper and deeper in space, like a drill taking a core sample of the Earth. And within this cosmic tunnel, astronomers are finding a mind-boggling array of new galactic formations, some that may date back to the moment of the Big Bang.
We want to learn about the faintest galaxies. Now, the faintest galaxies, are they the farthest away? Or are they just small little galaxies nearby? How many galaxies are there? We're not going to see every galaxy with this picture, but we're potentially able to see through the entire optically observable universe.
These galaxies are so far away, it has taken their light more than 80 million years to reach us. So the study of these new pictures is really the study of our own most ancient history.
We all ask the question, where did the universe come from? How old is it? What is my place in the universe? What is the place of the galaxy in the universe? And by using instruments such as the Hubble Space Telescope, we can start to get answers.
We'll have more stories from the news next time. Now, here's what's coming up on Sightings.
I wanted to make it a hard fact that no one in the world is going to be able to dismiss.
This man's organization of UFO investigators has captured some of the best pictures ever of unidentified craft. So why doesn't the rest of the world listen?
The skies are filled with these unidentified flying objects that first appeared on July 11th, 1991, the date of this century's last total solar eclipse. And since then, the sightings haven't stopped. Journalist Jaime Mausson first reported the UFO sightings with skepticism, then detachment. But now he has come to believe that these objects are real and not of this world.
In 1991, this is where all the traffic stopped?
Yeah, everything stopped. All the people came down from the cars and everybody started to look at it because they were all over.
How many people were around?
Hundreds of thousands. Nobody knows. The highways stopped. The big avenues, this avenue, right here, people were just standing there.
Cars stopped?
Cars stopped.
As the host of Mexico's version of 60 Minutes, Mausson has built his reputation on objective reporting. Why, then, has he chosen to take the lead in such a controversial investigation?
Because I am absolutely sure that I am doing something that is right, that is correct, that is honest, is ethical, and is needed by the Mexican people.
Are you concerned about your credibility, spending so much time concentrating on UFOs?
Not whatsoever. On the opposite, I have more credibility now because I took the step, because I had the courage to do it, as an honest person.
Speaking as a journalist, if you had one wish, what would it be?
I like to be there if they come down with a camera to document it. I wanted to make it a hard fact that no one in the world is going to be able to dismiss.
By putting his reputation on the line, Mausson has inspired others in sensitive public positions to also come forward. Recently, 2 members of Mexico's Air Traffic Controllers Union risked their livelihoods by discussing with me their own UFO sightings, UFOs that came dangerously close to commercial aircraft.
There are reports that the air traffic controllers in Mexico City are seeing very strange things on their radar screens. Is that true?
We have activity almost every day. Some days a few, some days just only one. But I work at nights, and pilots keep reporting me they have lights inside, near the mountains, at the volcano areas, at the archaeological zones.
It's somewhat strange because they move so fast that the radar does not register their movement, only when they become motionless. But those who are able to see them visually say they maneuver in ways impossible for aircraft to perform, and the colors are very different from the navigating lights of aircraft.
In addition to the expert eyes of controllers and pilots, Mausson is also training legions of interested citizens in his investigative techniques. So far, over 1,000 people have been trained to look for and document UFOs. They're called Los Vigilantes, the Watchers.
We don't investigate any case that is not proven by hard evidences. We are trying to be as scientific as possible. We go to the places, we look through all the night and try to find out if there is something going on there that all of us believe is really happening.
I accompanied Mausson at a chapter of Los Vigilantes on a nighttime stakeout outside Mexico City. Around 9 p.m., Mausson received a phone call from a city air traffic controller. He reported unusual activity on his radar screen.
There were 3 lights. I was seeing that when I had the phone. And he said that one of them, they didn't have it in the radar. Okay?
It wasn't registered as an airplane, so it was something else.
They had 2 airplanes, but the third light was not an airplane. And he's expecting now to have a repetition of the images in the radar, and then we will know for sure that that's a UFO.
Maussons confirms that this is an inbound commercial aircraft. Los Vigilantes scan the skyline, but we cannot see the UFO being picked up intermittently on airport radar. However, the group's array of video cameras are rolling, capturing a visual record of the sky for later computer analysis. At Mexico City's University Grupo Sol, the computer science department has developed a program to identify anomalous aircraft and authenticate UFO sightings. Dr. Victor Casada directs the school's UFO curriculum.
When we began this, I really did believe that there was a lot of fraud going on, and I began to search for proof that there were special effects in many of the videos coming out of Mexico. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the results were in favor of the UFOs.
Do you think we'll ever know what all these mysterious lights and objects really are?
Who knows? They are there. That's for sure. They are there.
Y nosotros los vemos a través de la pantalla.
And we see them on the screen. That is a fact. And if they fly, they must be planes. If they aren't planes, they must be something else.
With the ever-increasing number of UFO sightings, more and more people are beginning to ask the same question. If they're not airplanes or experimental military aircraft, what are they? Where have they come from? When will they land?
You ever run out of patience?
With this subject, no, you have to accept, to learn, to be really, really easy. They are not here when you want. They are here when they want.
The Mexico City flap continues, and Sightings will continue to keep you informed about this historic and significant UFO hotspot.
Next, it may be the most dangerous road in America, and it's called the Devil's Highway.
God said, avoid this number or any combinations thereof.
Certain numbers have a mysterious power, inspiring superstition and even fear. Triskaidekaphobia, the fear of the number 13, is so entrenched that most hotels and high-rises do not have a 13th floor. Well, the number 13 may be scary, but to strike real terror in some people, just mention 666.
They call it the Devil's Highway, 200 miles of road bisecting the Navajo Nation in northern New Mexico. This 2-lane thoroughfare is the primary artery in and out of the nation's largest Native American reservation, a vital link for commercial and public transportation. But when the sun goes down, death comes to the Devil's Highway. This road has one of the highest highway fatality rates in America, and for good reason, say many travelers, because this is Highway 666.
The number 666 in the Bible is one of the few specific references to something that is downright evil, something to be avoided. So it's something that people can seize on and say, okay, God said, avoid this number or any combinations thereof.
Unsafe passing and tired drivers do account for many of the deaths on Highway 666. But many people have died along the side of the road under very mysterious circumstances, according to criminal investigator Jones Begay.
A lot of times we don't have a vehicle at the scene, and we usually don't have grill markings or brake markings. There's usually evidence left behind by a vehicle that caused the accident, but we don't find anything along the highway.
And strangely, the most dangerous part of Highway 666 is located here, at mile marker 13.
I got a call about an accident with fatality that occurred at about midnight, and we processed the crime scene. And then 6 hours later, 6 o'clock in the morning, we had the same accident happen in the same impact area with the same scenario as the first one. And I was having a talk with the FBI agent, and he suggested, well, maybe we should get a medicine man to bless the highway so we don't get a lot of these accident fatalities occurring on this highway.
The Navajo Nation does not share in the belief that the number 666 is the mark of the devil. But ancient Navajo tradition teaches that numbers do have spiritual power, and writing the number 6 can spell big trouble if it's not done correctly.
6 is something that we should not mess around with because it would cause illness, it would cause poverty, it would cause death.
In addition to the evil overtones of the highway's numerical designation, there is another reason why Highway 666 is the Devil's Highway, according to Navajo medicine man Ned Begay. He believes that the highway was built on sacred land, and that the desecration of this sacred ground has offended the spirits of his ancestors.
And there's places that are real holy, and they just plowed it up and just made a road. You see some of them, they just messed it up, and that's why a lot of people are getting hurt on that road.
The belief that a highway is cursed because it disturbs sacred ground is by no means unique to Highway 666. Sightings has reported previously on an epidemic of fatal accidents that have occurred during the construction of Hawaii's H3, a freeway that cuts through Oahu's most sacred burial sites. In Gloucester County, New Jersey, the death toll was mounting on Highway 55 until members of the Delaware tribe blessed the area where the highway ran through ancient burial ground. And according to Navajo Ned Begay, there is only one way to stop the carnage on Highway 666.
Personally, I think that we just have to tear the whole road out and just redo it again, then have a prayer for it. The blessing way, maybe. We at the end, at the start, before anybody would set foot on it. Then let it open.
According to state highway officials, it is not a curse that has caused the numerous fatalities on the Devil's Highway, but drunk drivers, poor construction, and inadequate lighting.
Offhand, I can't tell you where I remember where there was alcohol involved in an accident or a fatality that occurred on this highway.
Whether the crashes here are due to drunk driving, desecrated land, or the sign of the devil, the problem with Highway 666 may be that too many people believe it is not safe.
Even if you don't believe that 666 is an unlucky number, what people have been telling you your whole life is going to be there in your subconscious, and you might be more likely to have an accident on Route 666.
Once the road is blessed, then it is a new road, and I think everybody can use the road again. And I think that the road will not cause any more harm.
Superstition is winning out. Local jurisdictions have already started renaming sections of Highway 666. The days of the Devil's Highway, it seems, are numbered.
The power of 666 has even influenced at least one former American president. The street number on Ronald and Nancy Reagan's California home used to be 666. The city unanimously approved their request to have the number changed to 668.
Next, Sightings finds a key military witness to a UFO confrontation on Hunter Air Force Base.
I said, we got to go back out there, and she absolutely refused.
Recently, Sightings reported on a bizarre 1973 UFO encounter at Hunter Army Airfield near Savannah, Georgia. Well, after the broadcast, we were contacted by the MP radio dispatcher on duty at Hunter during the UFO incident. And he has his own story to tell about that terrifying night.
The early morning hours of September 8, 1973 were ordinary in every way, except one. At about 2:30 a.m., a menacing object swooped out of the Georgia sky and ran 2 Army MPs off the perimeter road surrounding Hunter Army Airfield. It was an unforgettable night of wonder and fear.
There's nothing I'd ever seen in aviation. Didn't have wings or propellers or jets. The rate of acceleration was far too rapid, absolutely no noise. And about then, the thing just took off, just gone.
Until former MP Bart Burns gave his astonishing first-person account to Sightings, the eyewitness details of the Hunter encounter had not been heard for more than 2 decades because of a government clampdown on the press interviews that Burns and his partner freely granted in the days after the incident. Although there was no reason to doubt the encounter Burns recounted in his Sightings interview, we searched for independent verification of his story. We found the MP dispatcher who took Burns' frightened call that night, Al Murray.
You know, they said it was a flying object that was chasing him, and at first I was a little like, you know, what the hell are you doing out there? You know, this, and, but then I could tell from the way they were talking that there was genuine concern, and I can remember telling myself, well, if there's something there, then get the hell out of there. And then at this point, I could hear in the background on the radio the car running full acceleration, you know, and they're saying, we can't go any faster.
As the two men sped away from the terrifying encounter, Murray says his adrenaline soared as he anxiously waited for Burns and his partner, Randy Shade.
They came running inside, and Shade especially was very, very shaken, he was scared. And Bart was very concerned, shall I say. So I said, well, we got to go back out there. And Shade absolutely refused. Said, I don't care what you do to me. I'm not going.
Although Burns was still rattled, he agreed to accompany Murray back to the scene of the encounter. After a fruitless search of the base perimeter, they returned to the dispatch desk, where Murray received shocking confirmation of the episode.
I basically just called the county dispatcher and said, anybody see anything? And he said, boy, he said, I'm glad somebody else. He said, one of our guys called in and reported the same thing, saw the same thing.
Intrigued by the possibility of seeing a UFO, Murray says he persuaded Burns to go with him onto the airfield the very next night. They pulled their patrol car to the end of a closed runway and waited for hours. Then their patience was rewarded.
I was sitting there and I saw a red light at first. And at first I thought it was the navigation lights, a rotating beacon from an airplane. But it didn't flash at all. It was just a round red light as such. And it moved in very erratic fashion, kind of quick jerks around, and then disappeared down behind the trees, because at the end of the runway it was all trees and forest and stuff. And I can remember just watching it, didn't say anything. And after it disappeared, I looked at Bart and he looked at me and I said, I guess you saw that. He said, yes.
Al Murray says it is an extraordinary memory that will stay with him as long as he lives.
It's pretty arrogant, I think, for us to think that we're the only people around. I think there's something more. What it is, I don't know.
Sightings is still seeking information about the whereabouts of Randy Shade, the second MP, who was an eyewitness to the UFO, along with Bart Burns. In 1973, Shade was a Spec 4 at Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, Georgia.
Sightings is now on the internet as part of the Sci-Fi Channel's Dominion website. By typing sci-fi.com, users can access information about the entire global Sci-Fi Channel lineup, as well as downloads from dozens of sci-fi movies and series, interviews with noted celebrities, games, and links to the hottest paranormal websites.
We now are able to reach a worldwide audience of Sightings fans, which enables them to give us feedback on what we're producing and how we're showing stories to people. We have features from some of our stories on a weekly basis. We have downloadable images and QuickTime clips.
When I make contact with this entity, I will become a little confrontational. Hello? Hello?
Since its inception, Dominion has become the home of all things science fiction on the World Wide Web. Now, with the addition of Sightings online, the hope is that it will become a clearinghouse for all things paranormal as well.
Already on the Dominion site, they have access to all the major paranormal links on the internet. We're hoping to reach a worldwide audience and provide state-of-the-art information and news about the paranormal world.
If you've had a paranormal experience, contact Sightings on the World Wide Web at sci-fi.com/sightings. Sightings can also be contacted at America Online at keyword Sightings, or write to us, care of Paramount Television.
Until next time, remember, no mystery is closed to an open mind. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.